Only within the moment of time represented by this present century, only within the moment of time represented by the present century has one species, man, acquired significant power to alter the nature of the world. Rachel Carson, Silent Spring. My great-grandfather, Dr. Phonindranath Ghosh, a pioneer of applied physics at Rajabajar Science College, Kolkata, and one of its first kind in India, forms a streak of family history that motivated me at an early age to engage in research. This motivation in me gained a direction when I read Rachel Carson's Silent Spring in 2015. My field of interest gradually tapered in the context of toxicology to the pertinent issue of heavy metal pollution in the deltaic plains of India and the plight of the people undergoing the implications of it, often ignorantly. Hello everyone, my name is Oindrila Ghosh. I am a third-year PhD student in environmental engineering at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. What I just read were the very first few lines of how my statement of purpose looked like when I wrote it in 2015. For those of you who are not familiar, and it might be of help to people who are planning to apply to US for grad school, the statement of purpose, or the SOP, is the 2-page essay that you have to write as a part of the application that you submit to each of the schools. Now that I read it, I'm not extremely proud of it, how I wrote it back then. I would definitely like to change certain aspects of it, and I'm pretty sure I'll write it very differently now. But it's nice that I still agree with most of it. And I'm very fortunate to say that the work that I do now is not very far off what I actually intended to do with my life to start with. Recently, I was working on making a presentation about a general overview of our lab, and this was for the grad open house for all the new graduate students who will be coming in this semester. And I thought I should take this opportunity to make this video of what my research is about. It's very tiring sometimes when you're doing a PhD to go back every day, do the same monotonous chores, do the same thing over and over again. It's very important sometimes to stop and go back and see things from a little bit of distance, revisit the ideas of why you started doing this research in the first place. So I guess this is that for me. If you find this interesting, just let me know in the comments. You can subscribe to the channel if you want to show me your support. So just to give you a one-liner, our group performs research in the area of fate and transport and remediation of toxic hydrophobic organic contaminants in the environment. Breaking this down, let's first understand what HOCs are. So hydrophobic organic contaminants, as the name suggests, these are compounds which do not like to stay in water. And when they are dumped into water by certain facilities, they stay in a form of what is called the freely dissolved state and are in constant search of a more organic substrate to bind to. And when they find something remotely close to that, they instantly bind to these organic substrates, which unfortunately in most cases in aquatic environments are the lipid in aquatic organisms like fish. Now, Maryland being a state close to the waters, or me being a person belonging from a state in India which is known for their love for fish, fish is a very important part of our diet.
Fish is a very important part of our diet.
Most of the hydrophobic organic contaminants, or HOCs, are carcinogens like polychlorinated biphenyls, PCBs, polyaromatic hydrocarbons, PAHs, certain pesticides, and dioxins. So when we eat the fish, we are basically ingesting these carcinogens. Moving to the first part of the same sentence, fate and transport and remediation. The study that involves understanding the process mechanisms of how these contaminants move about through various environmental media like sediment or water is what constitutes the fate and transport aspect of our work. Remediation is a fallout of this because we use our knowledge of the fate and transport of these contaminants to develop new technological ways to clean up contaminated sites or to make these contaminants stay in one place and not move about so much. Whenever we try to understand a natural environment, it is very common for environmentalists or scientists per se to try and mimic the natural environment in some way to understand and study the impact of each of these underlying processes that are affecting the system and study them one by one under controlled environment. One of the key things that is very important here is the quantification of these HOCs in the various environmental media they are in. One of the analytical tools that researchers have found to mimic these natural environments is passive sampling. Of course, there are some assumptions like any other model, and I won't go into the details of those assumptions today. But just to give you a general idea of what passive sampling is. So in passive sampling, we just make use of the very selling point of these hydrophobic organic contaminants, which is their phobia of water. They don't like staying in water, so we just introduce a polymer like polyethylene, say. The HOCs tend to sorb into the matrix of this polymer instead of staying dissolved in water. So this essentially involves exposing the polymer in the environmental media for a prolonged period of time, like days, weeks, or months, and let the polymer come in a state of thermodynamic equilibrium with the environment, which is a state of saturation after which it can take in no more. And then we bring these samplers to the lab, analyze them, and figure out their concentration, which is the concentration on the passive sampler per gram of the passive sampler. And then by using certain assumptions that I was talking about before, which are in the form of these established coefficients called partitioning coefficients, we just try and figure out the unknown, which is the concentration in water. Pretty straightforward math. Now, since passive sampling is one such sampling field which is rather contemporary, there are many knowledge gaps, and my research essentially tries to optimize these passive sampling methods to make the quantifications more efficient in terms of time, performance, cost, feasibility for scaling these things up. All of this is really cool, but when it comes to research, there are a lot of practical logistics involved. All of the exciting stuff that I was talking about before needs to be summarized or boiled down to some very specific research aims, which is executable over a period of 3 to 4 years and needs to get funding so that we have all the resources that we need as and when we conduct our experiments. Fortunately for me, all of this work was already done. Dr. Ghosh, my advisor, had the project literally ready for me to come and join in. So I was very lucky that way. The project involved making a passive sampling device and optimizing its performance for more accurate and more efficient measurements. Me coming from a chemistry background, fabrication of the device was something very interdisciplinary and required certain skills which I didn't particularly own. So it was very exciting for me to collaborate with people from other departments to work on this. It was a very, very enriching experience. And currently, the fabrication is completed. We are yet to test the device for its performance, which is what I need to do. The second part of my project was not really planned. It was a question which was a fallout from one of the other projects. So I came across this project in a very interesting way. I was leaving office one evening and Dr. Ghosh just called me and was like, "Oh, Indrida, do you want to work on this?" So back then it sounded very abstract to me, but now that I've spent so much time on it, I think things have become clearer. A large part of the project involves mass transfer modeling to understand how passive sampling really works, and basically trying to see if they can be used in a more versatile way. I find it very exciting because I am trying to understand this particular analytical tool which is used by everybody out there for very important estimations which decide very critical things like fish advisories of different states. I was not planning to make this video so soon about my research. I was just planning to give you guys a sneak peek of my day or week as a PhD student, the experiments that I do, etc. But then I realized while editing those videos that it's quite difficult to relate to the kind of work I am doing without having a premise or a background of what it is exactly I was doing. And hence this tormenting video of me talking for I don't know how many minutes now. I hope I made some sense to you and I did not bore you to death. And if I did, well, it was necessary for all the exciting stuff that I am about to share with you very soon. Until then, stay safe and have a nice day or night.